Hello everyone and welcome to the channel, and I am here for an album review for you guys. Now for this review, you know that I was going to talk about this album, so here we go, let's talk about it. This is my review for Songs of Death and Resurrection by Demon Hunter, and this is Demon Hunter's new acoustic Resurrected album. Now this was definitely one of my most anticipated albums of the year. There really hasn't been much album announcements as of late, so this was definitely one that I was definitely looking forward to, and I'm definitely glad that it's finally out. And you know, whenever Demon Hunter first announced that they were coming out with an acoustic album, this was actually something that surprised me, but in a good way. I mean, I feel like this is kind of like a nice change of things instead of getting another studio album from Demon Hunter. Now, I feel like a lot of people would have preferred them just to come out with another studio album instead of this. But for me, I actually don't mind this. I think this is, again, a nice little break from getting a studio album because, well, I would honestly not like us to get more of the same of what we got from War and Peace, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because in my opinion, those albums haven't really held up very well, even though they are decent, though. But yeah, Songs of Death and Resurrection, ever since they released the singles, I knew right from the get-go that Demon Hunter was basically doing what Breaking Benjamin did with their album Aurora. I mean, if you didn't know, Breaking Benjamin did this first. They basically released a collection of songs, just reimagined, plus a brand new song, and that's basically what Demon Hunter did. I mean, Demon Hunter basically took a page out of Breaking Benjamin's book with this album. So, I mean, I don't know if it's just a coincidence or what, but they had to get this idea from Breaking Benjamin. But regardless, I have to say right off the bat that I really do enjoy this acoustic album. I mean, I don't think I've ever been this excited for an acoustic album in my life. I mean, Demon Hunter is just one of those bands that definitely gets me excited. Now, I will say that I do think that this acoustic album is probably the best thing that Demon Hunter has done since Extremist. I mean, I'll go as far to say that. I mean, if you're a longtime Demon Hunter fan and you're just looking to go on a nostalgia binge with Demon Hunter, you know, listen to classic Demon Hunter songs reimagined, well, this is the album for you. I mean, this is definitely the album to check out. And yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoy this one. I mean, I just really love how dynamic some of these songs are. I mean, it's not just your typical acoustic album. You know, this album probably would have been very boring if it was just, you know, acoustic guitar and vocals, and that would have been it. I mean, this album would have been nothing worth writing home about if that was the case. But this album offers so much more than that. I mean, it's got a lot of orchestral elements. I mean, most of this album has orchestral elements. I mean, you got plenty of violin and pianos, plenty of backing vocals in some of these songs, such as in Dead Flowers, which was one of the singles. And I do think that Dead Flowers is still probably the best of the singles. I just really love Ryan's vocals in this song, and just how this song flows, and the use of instrumentals that are used, and the backing vocals, the bagpipes that are present at the end of the song. There's just a lot to like about that version of Dead Flowers. Now, I Will Fail You and Loneliness were also singles to the album. I think those are good too, but to me, I don't think that they were as good as Dead Flowers. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the non-singles, shall we? Now, I'm not going to be going over every single song on this album. I'm not going to be doing a track-by-track review or whatever. Go watch someone else's review if that's what you're looking for, but I'm just going to talk about basically the highlights and just my thoughts on some of the songs and give you my overall thoughts of this album. Now, to name favorites of mine from this album, I mean, of course, Dead Flowers. I mean, it's still probably one of my favorites. Deteriorate was definitely one of my most anticipated songs from this album. I mean, I've always loved Deteriorate, even the original version, how, you know, the melody is, and I mean, this is a very dynamic sounding song, I feel like, especially towards the end. The second half of this song really did catch me by surprise for sure, because there is some backing vocals present in the second half of that song, and I mean, Ryan, he sounds really good in that song. I Am a Stone is definitely one that pleasantly surprised me as well. Probably another one that's going to go down as one of my favorites on the album. I mean, definitely one of the other more dynamic songs on the album. I just really love the flow and structure of this one. I mean, I'm just pleasantly surprised of what they did with that one in particular. Now, Carry Me Down is actually another contender for a favorite of mine as well. I'm not sure. If it's not a favorite of mine, then it's at least an honorable mention. You know what's crazy though? There's like now 3 versions of that song. There's of course the original, the piano version that's found on 45 Days, and then there's this version. So yeah, I do like the resurrected version of Carry Me Down for sure. Definitely one of the more emotion-driven songs that are on this acoustic album. Now, a lot of these songs are definitely emotion-driven. You know, they really deliver in that area, I think. So yeah, Carry Me Down, Ryan obviously sounds great, and the instrumentals, fantastic. Now, I mean, if I were to name maybe some gripes with this album, is that I feel like it was a little unnecessary for this album to be a little over an hour long. There are a couple songs that weren't bad, but they just didn't do it for me as much. And some songs that come to mind for me would be The Tide Began to Rise and My Heartstrings Come Undone. Now, these two songs, these two resurrected versions of these songs, they're not bad. They are technically good. I mean, they technically sound good for what they are, but they're just nothing special compared to the songs that I've mentioned previously. I mean, I did notice in The Tide Began to Rise that there's some vocal effects that are used in Ryan's vocals. I'm not sure what they were thinking with going in that direction with that song. Does it work? I guess, but it is overall one of my least favorites on the album. I think Demon Hunter really did do a good job delivering on this acoustic album. I mean, the way that they went about it, fantastic. I mean, I don't know what you guys think of this acoustic album, Songs of Death and Resurrection, but I personally dig it. I can't wait to get my copy in the mail. That should actually be coming very soon now, actually. I was very surprised when I found out that it should be coming very soon. So, yeah, definitely excited to get the CD itself. And definitely a great addition to the Demon Hunter catalog. Now, I wouldn't count it as its own studio album, but it's, I know some people might. So that is something to keep in mind. I don't know if I would call it, you know, DH11 or whatever. Now, there is one last thing I do gotta mention. The brand new song that is featured on this acoustic album, Praise the Void. Now, what do I think of this song? I really dig it. I really do. I mean, this is another one of the more emotional driven songs on the album. And I like it. Now, is it one of my favorites on the album? I'm not sure if I would go that far. I will say that it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be, but it still was a really good song. I will say that. So overall, Songs of Death and Resurrection by Demon Hunter, I really enjoy this one. I think it's good. And I think they really did deliver. They did a great job doing this acoustic album. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up doing something like this again. You know, maybe like a part 2 to Songs of Death and Resurrection. Maybe sometime down the road of the Demon Hunter career. Like maybe someday they'll, you know, make acoustic versions of other ballads that they've done, and maybe even future ballads to come. Now, what I do find very interesting about this acoustic album is this album has songs from all of their albums except for 2. And those 2 are War and Outlive. Now, not that I care too much about that, because I would say that those albums are some of their weakest. Now, obviously, War is better than Outlive. I mean, that goes without saying, of course. But I'm especially surprised that we didn't get anything from Outlive from this acoustic album. Like maybe Died in My Sleep or something. Although maybe that one was maybe a little too heavy to do an acoustic. I mean, you wouldn't really call that a ballad because the songs that are on this acoustic album are ballads that they've already done, of course. And that's all there really is to say. I do enjoy this acoustic album. I think it's great. So what do I have to give this album as a score? As a score, I would probably give it an 8.5 out of 10. So that's my review for Songs of Death and Resurrection by Demon Hunter. Feel free to let me know what you guys think. Are you a fan of Demon Hunter? What do you think of this acoustic album? Feel free to let me know your thoughts. So on that note, thanks for watching. Have a nice day and take care.